All right, so let's get started. We are here for our weekly or bi-weekly career chats now. Art is our theme today, our topic of today. We have some great panelists with us. Just some housekeeping things for our participants. If you have questions, there's the Q&A section that you can ask the question. And we can see it and answer it. Panelists, ignore the question Q&A section. You don't need to worry about it. I'll keep an eye on it, and I will give you the questions as we go through. So you don't have to worry about anything that happens on your screen. So let's get started with introductions. First up is Kristen Weinard. She has been in the jewelry industry for 16 years since graduating college in 2004 from Millersville. Her hobby of creating jewelry led to a job in a large independent family-owned jewelry store, and there she learned jewelry repair, stone setting, in addition to buying fine jewelry. Kristen began in 2007 creating her own jewelry to sell. She works in silver and gold with precious and semi-precious gems. Her passion for jewelry creation led to her obtaining a graduate gemologist, yeah. For some reason today, degree, and she's using that higher knowledge to contribute value to her own jewelry, and also it allows her to perform appraisal work. She's worked for the past 2.5 years as an independent contractor with a company in Lancaster. She is also the outgoing board president of the York Art Association. She's served 2 terms as president after being 2 terms as the second vice president. She is married and has an 8-year-old daughter, Annie. And then we also have Jenna Bolusky.
Yeah.
Jenna was born in Washington, D.C. She draws inspiration from her mother, who became an artist after beginning chemo. Over the years, her fascination with art began to grow, and this led to her pursuing a bachelor's in studio art with a minor in art history. She used her electives to take philosophy courses, and those studies influence her artwork today. After graduating, she taught art at Apopka High School. You know, I got the last name. Drawing has always been one of her favorite mediums. She draws portraits that reflect the human condition. She incorporates satire and interesting approaches to realism that draws on inspiration from her personal experiences. Then we also have Sam here, and some of you probably recognize her from our Girl Scout Council. She's one of our program coordinators. She lives in Scranton, PA. She, in the evenings when she's not doing awesome work for GSHPA, works on digital portrait commissions for customers. She's worked as an assistant art teacher all through high school, and after going to university to get her an art education degree. She, with a PA state certification, she has subbed in many schools. She's run summer art camps, and even brought art to classrooms in rural Alaskan villages, which I didn't know that about you. That's pretty darn cool. Sam started her art business, Oh Samit, painting watercolor portraits for family members and pet portraits on glassware. She transitioned to digital art in 2018 and has created over 100 portraits in the past 2 years. Not only has she done portraits, she creates logos and artwork for podcasts. She's recently begun creating labels for a local brewery. Wow, words are hard for me today. In her free time, she also sews costumes. And last but not least, we have Anakie Garcia. She is an instructional design consultant. She grew up in Colorado and Montana and has a bachelor's degree doubling major in French and graphic design from Montana State University, which, side note, was where I met her. We were roommates. She's worked as a graphic designer for a daily newspaper and also did freelance graphic design and illustrations before going to graduate school, where she studied education, linguistics, and instructional design. She focuses on teaching methods and creating materials for foreign language teaching. and did her dissertation while living in China with her husband. She finished her PhD and then started working in the healthcare field, where she creates online learning materials for patients, insurance customers, doctors, and others. She loves being able to use her background experience in design and illustration, especially at a time when healthcare education is a big need nationwide. She now lives in Salt Lake City with her husband and 2 boys, and she doesn't brag about it, but I will. She is a multi-time champion on Jeopardy! So this is everyone. Welcome. Let me close this out. We are here to talk about art. So let's go into a little bit more detail on like what things you like to create. How do you create them? Like what mediums do you use? Things like that. So Sam, can we start with you?
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
So I really liked when I first started out, especially in high school, just experimenting with different materials, and I found that I really enjoyed watercolor. So I've been primarily doing watercolor, but then I picked up an iPad and I've been working with the program Procreate and doing digital work through that because it's just really simple. It's user friendly. It's a great app to try if you're looking to start doing digital art.
Excellent. Kristen, what do you do?
Well, my art is a little more non-traditional. A lot of people would say it's there's kind of a funky line between some saying it's art and some saying it's craft, and I like to say it's a little bit of both. It's kind of sculptural, you know. I started off working with a lot of beads when I was a kid, and that really, my aunt giving me a bead kit like started it all probably when I was, I don't know, 10 or 11. And so then when I didn't get to, in my school, I went to a private school, and we just had art class, that was it. So I really kind of didn't realize that I could see a future in it until I went to college and found the metal smithing lab, and that was fun. So I love working in metal. I like melting things, and I like silver and gold, and it's fun because there's different sciences in it. There's a really cool metal I like. It's called argentium silver, and it has I'll geek out a little more germanium in it, so it doesn't tarnish as much, and you can fuse it, and it's so much better because I swear, I say bad things when I'm working with silver because sometimes it's not fun. But then that led me, roundabout way, I found the gem world. I really hadn't had a whole lot of interest in that. And I started trying to find something to supplement my income as a jeweler, because I like to make everything myself, and I'm really slow. But being really slow makes me have a high attention to detail. So I needed to find something to supplement my income a little. And so I went to the Gemological Institute of America and got my gemologist degree, which, I mean, opened my eyes to a really cool world of gemstones. And so there's just, I can't ever pick favorites. Everything has its own beauty. So
Excellent.
That covers it.
Very cool. All right, Anakie, how about you? What are you doing?
Well, I always joke around that it's been a long time since I've made art with my actual hands, because I started out loving drawing and illustration, and when I went to school, my program was a BFA. It was a fine arts degree, so I had to take all those different classes. I had to do sculpture and printmaking and things like that. I always wanted to get things to have really beautiful flat colors, like big, like crisp lines, flat colors, things like that. So even when I took painting, I was trying to paint like the minimal amount of brush strokes, and so I was definitely not doing well in terms of painting and sculpture and things like that, because everything wanted to be flat and beautiful. And then I got into printmaking and graphic design, and was like, this is what I want to do, because you can make beautiful flat colors all day. So I do a lot of digital illustration. Adobe Illustrator is the big tool I use for that. And occasionally I should sit down and just draw things with a pencil, but it doesn't happen very much anymore.
Well, you've got a busy life. 2 little boys running around too.
They love to draw though, so they do
Okay.
all the hand drawing in our house.
Excellent. And Jenna, what do you do? What do you like to use? What do you create?
So I draw. I do have a fine arts degree, and I draw kind of hyper realistic, like very detailed. I use pencils. I use charcoal and graphite and lots of chalk, or like chalk pastel. So basically like all the really messy ones. I can paint, I just choose not to. Yeah, I'm a much better drawer. So I do a lot of portraits, but I also paint a lot of like metallic surfaces just because I like the reflections and whatnot. And I plan on joining the Army as an illustrator in about a year or so. So that should be interesting. I'm kind of the opposite of Anakie. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm kind of the opposite in that I don't prefer graphic design. Like I'm much more like pencil and paper, like super traditional. But the illustration job in the Army is definitely going to have me doing some graphic design and lettering and whatnot. So I'm going to have to be trained on that.
Very cool. Very cool. So to kind of give the girls an idea of kind of where you started, you talked a little bit about it, but was there anything special that inspired you to do this or really caught your interest? And if they have that kind of interest now in middle school and high school, what are some things that they can do to see if it's what they want to do for a career? Kristen, let's start with you.
Oh, that's
I know it's a loaded question. It's got a lot of layers.
Specifics. I think it's something that just took a lot of pursuing an interest and seeing where it went, and doing it a lot. I have so much stuff from when I was a kid of beaded jewelry that I made, and now that I look at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's like no creativity to it. It's just a wire with beads on it. What was I thinking? But I was figuring it out and seeing that I liked doing it, and it was an outlet for me. Mm-hmm. And when I went to college, my parents wanted me to pursue graphic design if I was going to be an art major, because they said that's going to be a better guarantee of a job for you. And I really wish I would have.
It's all about the job.
I really wish I would have spent more time in the metals lab, which I did, but I actually had transferred to Millersville, so I only got 2 years there. And I really wish I had pursued my gut instinct of jewelry to start with, because when I finished my degree with the graphic design degree, I had a great internship with the Baltimore Magazine, and for the summer, I hated it. I was like, how could I not like this if I'm working for the Baltimore Magazine? And so what I did, I was like, well, you know what? I watched my grandfather. He was a very inspiring individual to me. He really started at the bottom and worked his way up in a big company, and got to the top. And so I thought, okay, to get my experience, to learn how to make successful pieces of jewelry, I've got to start at the bottom and work my way up. I have to figure out how you make solid jewelry that I can repair and know how to repair, and really what the definition of a good quality piece of jewelry is. So I started working at this jewelry store, and I worked on the watch battery bench for 2 years until they gave me a bench jeweler position. And then I was an apprentice jeweler for several years. And in that time, I also took classes at some other craft. There's this really cool art center, Peters Valley Craft Center. I don't know if anybody's heard of it. Such a cool place. You could always start out taking classes at a place like that has all sorts of different types of art, and you can take like 2 to 3 day classes. I did get a scholarship there when I was in college for a summer class, and that really helped. I think it was a stone setting class or something, but they have photography and blacksmithing and textiles and all sorts of really cool art to learn. I don't know if that answered the question, but
yeah, so like get out and try new things, and being willing to work, definitely.
And follow your gut instinct and your passion, because you want to be doing what you love to do. And that's where you'll succeed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anakie, I know in college we had art all over the apartment.
Yeah, sorry about that. It wasn't the best either.
Oh no, it was great. It was
I would really echo what Kristen said about just taking opportunities to work on different things. Most of the cool stuff I've done in my life, I didn't know it was even a possibility before I got into it. It's like, you got a job doing this, so you do that for a while and you learn so much more. You get a job doing this, or you get a chance to go on some study program. I was a double major when we were in college, and I was studying French. And for me, the art side of getting to study French was really cool. So we got to go to France, and I got to visit all these little museums and see all these cathedrals and things that I had, been interested in. So I learned a lot more and, got that in kind of my mind bank. So everything you do in life is an opportunity for you to I picture your mind as a little library. You're just putting more stuff in your library, and you've got more cool stuff to look back on. The job I have right now, nobody would think it's not an art job, but I do art as part of it. And it's not anything I would have thought I was interested in. There was an availability at this company, and it's in the healthcare field. And we ended up making a huge collection of courses on anatomy and physiology of the body. And we had certain graphics that we had to work with, but we didn't have every graphic that we needed to for all the different body parts we needed to teach about. So I ended up having to draw muscles and things like that. And I never thought I knew anything about that, but that's another example of something you had no idea about, but you're like, okay, let's do this. And it ends up being a really cool experience. So that's what I would add to that. You never know where it's going to take you.
Very cool. Jenna.
Yes.
Yes.
I muted myself because my cats were just very chatty.
No worries.
So yeah, I agree with what the other two have said. I think especially if you know you want to pursue some kind of art, I think it's really beneficial to just consume imagery. Like the more art you look at, the better you're going to be, the more you're going to learn about yourself as an artist, figure out what interests you, what doesn't, and you'll kind of get a better understanding of the art you want to create. And I mean, even my professors, the ones who have been teaching for 40 years, they still go to museums, they still read the art publications, the magazines and whatnot. So I think really the consumption of material is something that if you're not already doing, you should definitely start because it'll benefit you, and it's something that you should continue really for the rest of your professional career. That's something that's helped me a lot. It's just, yeah, I mean, I'll go on Instagram and I'll just scroll through hashtags, or I'll follow these different Instagram accounts, and just seeing that imagery every day just kind of reinforces your style, whatnot. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Sam.
I agree with everything everyone else has said, especially, so as an art educator, I think you see all of these kids that they think that art has to be something that is traditional, like, oh, art is painting, art is just these basic things, but there's so much to it. It could be like jewelry making. That is a perfect example. I think when you think art, maybe initially that's not what you first think is involved with it, but don't be afraid to go out and try all of these different things, experiment. For 2 years in college, I was making stop motion videos. That's not watercolor, but I had a lot of fun, and try everything. It could lead, like Anakie was saying, it could lead you down a really interesting path.
Yeah, there are a lot of different careers out there that include art into it that wouldn't necessarily think would be a traditional art career or a career for an artist. Well, here is a question for you. It's kind of a double question. What is a typical day for you in your art or working career day? And then what is the best and worst part of that job? Anakie, would you like to go first?
Sure, and I can try and share my screen. I thought it might be helpful for me to show the kind of stuff I work on, because it's impossible to explain it. My mom doesn't know what I do at work all day. She always tries to tell people, and I'm like, no, that's not it, Mom. But
moms mean well.
Yes. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
So we build a lot of e-learning modules, and so we use programs. We're not computer programmers ourselves, but we know a little bit of that kind of stuff, and we use programs that build, it's kind of like a really powerful PowerPoint. Like you make PowerPoint and then there's timelines and you put in audio and things like that. And we put together these courses that then people can go on, they take the course, they get a certificate at the end. So I thought I'd just kind of show you how they look. There's audio playing, but you can't hear it. But basically, on a given day, I'm building something like this. So I'm taking the content that somebody gave me who's an expert in the field, and I'm organizing it, I'm rewriting it so it makes sense. Here we had to take like a medical chart and then scroll down, and people are saying stuff behind the scenes. And then we make it do all kinds of cool stuff. So we program it to, we think this should be like a dictionary page, and we try to make it look nice. That's the other thing, is there's a lot of people in my field who know how to make something work, but they don't know how to make it look nice. So it's really helpful to have at least one person who knows how to make things pretty. Sometimes they're not pretty because they're pictures of muscles and body parts and stuff.
But they're visually appealing.
Right. And so it's really cool because look at all the, I like learn all this stuff at the same time that I'm making it. And so, you know, we have to do a lot with photography. You have to learn about typography, which is, you know, what fonts and how to make things legible. And then we get to do things like this. I get to make this interactive page. I don't know if I'm getting the answers right, but nope, I didn't. And then this was just a really fun project for me because as it goes through, it names like the different muscles, and then we have a different thing highlight. So here I was working with some existing pictures, and they were done in the EPS format. So they were kind of outlined pictures that I can pull apart on the computer. So I pulled them apart and highlighted the different muscles one at a time, and then programmed it to bring up that one that we were talking about. So it was a lot of intersection between, you know, doing art, making art look nice, and making it work well. And then some of these were the ones where I didn't have the right pictures, so I had to try to duplicate some of these muscle views myself. And that was
okay.
It was a really cool learning experience. So that's a little bit of what my daily work looks like, which is really different
cool
than anything I thought I'd ever be working on. But yeah, my favorite part is definitely, I love it when I publish something out and it works and it's really nice and people are appreciative of it. It's really nice when you get good feedback. The flip side of that is the worst part of the job is when it doesn't meet what somebody was thinking of. And if you do any kind of art for a living, you're going to find that what you think looks good and kind of even your expert opinion on this looks great and I love it, 15 different people are going to disagree with you. And they're going to be like, no, what if you did this? No, what if you did this? And it can be really hard, especially if that's your job, to do something that you love how it looks and it's great and you're really proud of it, and then someone says, no, I don't like the colors you used, no. And a lot of times you have to go back and redo stuff, you have to totally scrap it, you have to make it ugly because that's what they want, and that can be really hard to get used to. So you have to at one point just put aside your own like little pride in it and say, I loved this when it looked like this and now I'm going to make it look like what they want to. One of the tricks I do is sometimes I'll do 3 versions of something. If somebody wants a certain logo or something, I'll do 3 little versions and I'll try to kind of present them and say, here, I could make it look like this or this or this. So sometimes even though they think they like a certain thing, I give them those options and let them see, oh, maybe I could go this way. That works sometimes. Just steer people away from the ugly things. But sometimes they just really want it ugly. So that's what you make
Sometimes people have a hard time making the right choice.
Yeah.
Jenna.
Yes.
What does your day look like and what is your favorite and least favorite part of it?
What does my day look like? Well, I work on commission currently. That's like how I make my income, is just making work and selling it. So it's like a pro and a con that like I am my own boss and like nobody's yelling over my shoulder like, hey, you got to draw today. Because like I'm still young and I need to develop discipline still, which is like easier said than done. But I usually spend most of my days drawing or collecting imagery. Like I'll go out to museums and kind of just like take pictures of everything and then kind of brainstorm later on. I spend a lot of my time looking at pictures I've taken just to like think of something new. So yeah, what she's saying about like sometimes people are not going to like what you put out. They might have a different opinion. That is true, but I only kind of make things one time. Because I guess I'm a little different because it's studio art, and they kind of approach me because they might like my style or they might like my way of drawing. So they already like kind of know what they're going to get before we work out a deal. So I kind of just work on something, sell it, and do it over and over again. Yeah.
That works.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Can I show you something? Just so
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll just show you one.
Yeah.
That medal I was talking about, I drew this suit of armor, and this was this is my drawing of armor that was on display at the Metropolitan Museum Art in New York, and I decided,
cool.
It's like, it was really hard to draw. It took a very long time.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, I'm like really interested in this. I want to do more. So I went to the Met, took a bunch of pictures, and now I'm just like drawing metal nonstop. So that's kind of when, like, that is what's taking up most of my time lately.
Excellent. So is that like, so you weren't, what am I trying to say? So the metal is a new thing that you're learning and you're practicing and trying to get that in your repertoire kind of a thing?
Yeah, it's very simple. I just realized I enjoy drawing the little details and the reflections on the surface and like the little tiny, tiny light refractions and whatnot. I like it, and I like to think I'm good at that. So I'm like, well, why don't I just continue this and kind of like write it out and see where it takes me?
Sounds good. Oh, that's cool. All right, Sam, what is your day like as an art person doing program coordinators at GSHPA?
Yeah, well, I spend most of my day just working for Girl Scouts, but then afterwards is when I'll start to work on commissions. So I usually dedicate about 2 hours a night to commissions, and I try and get them done. Just throughout the week, I try and do at least one a week. I kind of agree with everyone else. The worst part is just dealing with your client and trying to reach a point that everyone is happy with the outcome. But Anakie's right, sometimes you're not happy with what you want to, or what you're giving to them, because ultimately it's what they want and what they're paying for. My favorite part is just drawing.
Are you able to do any, like, do you have time to do, I don't know, fun art or art just for you kind of a thing without having to think about what other people want to do?
That's my struggle right now. I have too many commissions to do the work that I want to do between this and work. It's sad, but I mean, I wouldn't take the commissions if I weren't excited to do them. So, I mean, it's still fun.
Yeah.
Not silly cartoons. I would love to sit and draw cartoons. Sailor Moon has been an inspiration to me my whole life, but I mean, commissions are cool too.
Excellent. Kristen, what does a day working in your shop look like?
So I too am self-employed, so I really make my own schedule, don't have anybody over my shoulder, and I agree with Jenna, very much one of those, it's the good thing and it's the bad thing too. I mean, you've got to really develop your own pace, and a lot of times I find that I get one system going and then something happens in life and that system changes and you just have to go with it. Make sure you're getting your work done and try not to stress too much. As you might have seen, my 8-year-old daughter, she, you know, as some of you, it looked like somebody's close in age, you know, as a working from home mom, that can make my schedule more so. I don't really have much of a set schedule other than, okay, I can get out to my studio for an hour or two here or there, or if I have a commission piece, I can plan it in for when my husband's day off is. And it's also a lot of times mixed in with appraisal work, although right now I haven't done an appraisal since March because of COVID-19. And so that I wind up, I have another office in my house where I have my microscope and lab equipment for testing gemstones and determining what their identification is. And then writing up, doing research on values and such of jewelry. But coming back to the art part of it, when I come out to my workbench and I'm working on things, I too have had over the past few years, mainly my work's been commissioned and just like a handful of things a year, what I can handle on my plate. For me, it's not so much the client that's the problem. Sometimes it's the medium that's the problem, and it's just not doing what I want it to. So on a recent project, I'm going to do the same thing that Jenna did. Hold up to the phone, or hold the phone up. So this was something recent that I did. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So
that's pretty.
It's a pendant. So is it clear? I can't tell. And it's got 2 diamonds. And so I make things from scratch. So you can kind of see the formation process. Can you see that? So I'll order the wire in and shape it and everything and do all the soldering. Well, I got the settings in there the last time. I really had to build it because it had a pearl, and you have to, I so wish that was better. Sorry, guys. This is a post for the pearl, and it had to have a support across the back. And here's the mountings for the diamonds in it, which were the customer's actual diamonds from her great-grandmother's ring, which is one of the most special parts about doing what I do, is incorporating old family heirlooms into something fresh and new. Well, I get the first diamond set, and I look really closely, and here there's a crack right here where the mounting is soldered into the piece of jewelry. And I'm like, no, we have to heat it up, and that's going to be really scary, because what if something's on the diamond and heats up too much and messes up the diamond? And so it can get a little stressful.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. So what I do is I take a deep breath and I take a step away from it, and I do some research. I'm on Instagram a lot. I find the jewelers that I really admire their work, and I can reach out to them and say, hey, I'm having this problem. Do you have any suggestions? And I also, reflect on my time as a repair jeweler, and apply everything that I've learned. And then, you just have to take a risk every now and then. And it turned out great, and my customer is super happy with it. So that makes me super happy. So that's the nature of working with things that are a little out of your control, yet it is in your control. You just have to figure out how to rein it in.
Well, and from what you guys said, having kind of some time management skills are important in this. Are there any other kind of skills or strengths that you think would be good for the girls to have or cultivate to be an artist, to do things, to be creative?
I have one thing that I thought of, and this is something I heard from my art teachers in college. And they said one of the biggest things they see is a lot of talented kids come from high school and come into college art, and they're used to doing everything. Everything has to be perfect and ready to put on the wall. Like everything they did in high school, their parents hung on the wall for them. So they're like, everything I do is a perfect piece and it's done. And they said you have to get used to not making everything a finished product and not being happy with everything the way it is. And one of my teachers told me, it's not a baby, it's a piece of art. And a lot of times you think, oh, this is my baby, I created it. And it's like, no, it's not a human. It's okay if you put it down and start again. And that's how you get really good. You don't get good by doing it once and hanging it up. You get good by doing it over and over and over and over. Sometimes it's a terrible accident that makes you have to do that. Like you'll spill a pot of ink over something that was almost done and you're like, no, what happened? So you have to do it again. And then you're like, wow, that's better, because you took the time and you learned from it and you had to do it again. So that's the one thing that I would say is, like, a lot of the stuff you're going to do is cool and nice and good, but don't ever be satisfied with, that's all. I don't need to learn anything else. I don't need to do it again, because you have to just keep doing lots of work to get to the really, really good stuff.
Cool. I like that.
I would say if you're planning on being self-employed as an artist, coming from my experience and also coming from my experience as a board president working with artists, it's really important that you work on professionalism and also on take classes. Whether you go to college or you don't go to college, you got to find the classes on how to run your business. You've got to be able to know how to keep track of your numbers and all that jazz. If you can take that kind of class in high school, do it. I know it seems really boring right now, but it will benefit you so much if you know how to run your business along with your artwork, and you'll be so grateful. And the best thing too is be a good communicator with people in your community, with your clients, because people don't want to give you business if you're not a good communicator and you don't get back to them and you don't meet your deadlines and all that kind of stuff. So.
True. Sam or Jenna?
I would just say it's easy to get discouraged sometimes because making art can be so personal to you. And when you hear criticism or, you make something that was a failure, you are going to have failures. Like, I have things that my art is totally hit or miss. Like, sometimes they're really, really good. And then the next one I do, I'm like, oh, you know what? This is going to be even better. But sometimes it's a step backwards, and that's okay. Even the failures are learning opportunities. And if you view them that way, you are going to be better in the end, regardless. So it's easy to get discouraged, but don't let it really get to you that much. As long as you keep making work and you keep going at it and you surround yourself with art, you just have to make a habit and a routine out of it, I think. It is kind of hit or miss for me because, like, sometimes I'm not able to achieve the amount of detail that I would like, or maybe, I don't know, it could be anything. The proportions were a little off, which if you're doing portraits, like, it's kind of important that, like, your eye is not an inch to the left or something, you know what I mean? So, there are little things that can happen, but again, if you just learn from your mistakes and your failures, like, it's going to make you even that much better.
Very cool.
I would add to that and just say it's also great to just get up from the table and walk away from it from a while if you find you're frustrated or just need a break and you want to work on something else, and then come back with fresh eyes. That really helps if you find you're stuck on something.
And that's kind of a good rule for life.
Yeah. I have one more thing.
Sure.
I'd say it took me a really long time to learn this, to trust your gut. Trust your gut instinct. If there's a little whisper that's saying, stop. That's it. You're done. Just do it. Just stop, because it's possible that the next step is going to mess the whole thing up.
Right.
So, and that even comes in school with gemology on identifying gemstones and everything. One of my instructors, he was just like, you really do have to trust your gut instinct and then find the facts that back it up. And most likely your gut is right.
Yeah.
So.
Very cool. We have a question from Lila. She asks, what risks are involved in an artist's career? And you can take that any way you want to. What risks are in an artist's career?
There's always the risk that you don't make any money because, either you're not good with business and you can't promote yourself, or for some reason you're just not getting the business. So
yeah,
if you want a career in art, it's got to generate income so you can keep food on your table.
Yep.
And along with that, a lot of times you'll study for something and you'll be like, this is what I want to do. I want to be a gallery artist. I want to do that. And you won't have those opportunities because it's a tight field and it's hard to get, you know, you could be really good and you could be the most amazing artist your city's ever seen and you still can't get your name out. So I would say like, that's always the risk, but don't let that define your success. Right now, I don't work for anybody who pays me for art, really. You know, I work in a totally different job. Graphic design was like that. You know, I worked for a newspaper. You know, they weren't paying me for being a brilliant artist, but there's enough you can do on your own. We really have a really cool society now too with the internet that you can just see art everywhere. You can share art everywhere. You can do tiny little projects. You know, there's websites where you can bid to do a project for someone. On one hand, I hate it because they're not paying an actual graphic designer. They're getting a bunch of people to do it for free and then paying someone $5. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, for the people who want to practice and work, there's tons of stuff you can do on your own. So that is a risk. It's like there's no way to say for sure that you're going to make money being an artist in galleries, you know, and be the lucky one out of a million. But you can always do it for yourself. You can always do it for the other passions in your life. You know, maybe you're involved in like community theater and you get to paint the backdrops, or maybe you're, you know, I make posters for everything I'm in all the time now because I'm like the go-to poster person. So there's always going to be a way to use your creativity and to get better, no matter if you make it successfully or not.
Excellent. Sam or Jenna, do you want to add anything about risks?
I think they really got it. A lot of it is just walking that line, and either you make money or it's just for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Is it scary putting yourself out there, putting your creativity out there?
Oh, it's terrifying.
What do you do to be brave?
I think, I don't know, at least for myself, I like knowing what people think about what I'm putting out there, like their reaction, even if it's negative. Not everyone feels the same way. Not everyone's going to react that way. So it's just nice to gauge what people are thinking.
It is kind of a little intimidating to put your work out there because it is such a personal thing to create something from your heart, something that you're really into and passionate about, and then put it out in the world for everybody to judge. And there will always be people that don't like it, and that's okay. I mean, there's tons of people that hyperrealism is not their thing. They prefer something more expressive. There was one time I put like these two drawings I did side by side, and it was like, look at how much I've improved over like 5 years. And then someone commented, well, I like the first one better because it's like much more expressive and you had this looser style and like there's more like XYZ. Like, yeah, I put that out there for people to like see the progress that I've made on like the way I've chosen to approach work. And like, you're gonna have criticism all the time, and that's scary, but it's okay. And you can't take it too personally because people are allowed and should have different opinions. That's what's so great about art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anakie or Kristen? It's okay if not.
I'm forgetting the question.
What do you do to be brave when it's scary to put your work out there?
Oh, I just suck it up and go with it. I mean, I'm usually really excited to deliver a piece that I've been working on for a long time. And for me, sketching and drawing is the first step of the process. So a lot of times I have approval on my design. And so 9 times out of 10, by the time I get to the completed piece, people are usually just so excited to see it from paper to 3D, completely handmade. It is nerve-wracking though. I always have butterflies, and it's the best feeling to give somebody something that's what they envisioned or more than. And You know that they're going to embrace that piece for a really long time. And it's really special when it's a gift from, say, husband to wife for 50th anniversary or something like that. But it can be intimidating. And it can be intimidating sitting down with people for the very first time. That can almost be a little more scary than delivering a final product, just because I'm like, oh gosh, you know, will I have the skills that I need to do what they want? Am I going to have to say, sorry, you know what? I am not an expert at that. And I think it's better for you to go to somebody who is, and this is the person you should go to. I do that because I don't want to take, there are certain risks that I don't want to take.
Right.
But usually I can say, look, this is the kind of stuff I do. This is what I would suggest. If you like that, I can do it. If you want that instead, go there.
Right. So you can kind of guide them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But and that's the thing too, is it also opens my eyes to, ooh, I need to go find another class to take. Continuing education, always.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That connects to the thing I thought about when I thought of the question. There's a concept from education that comes in and applies here, and it's whether you're motivated by performance or by mastery. And this applies to learners in any field, but some people are motivated to get the praise and be like, hey, yay, you're the best student in the class, or you passed this test. Like, that's what their motivation is. But the best learners are motivated by their own mastery of something. And as an artist, you really have to be mastery oriented if you want to survive, because you'll get a little bit of praise, like I said, you know, maybe in your high school or in your town, you know, where it's a smaller group, you'll get a lot of praise and you'll feel happy about that. And then you'll get into a bigger world and be like, how come nobody's praising what I did? It's still good, right? But what the real fulfillment comes from is from having done really well. You're kind of competing against yourself. You, like Jenna said, like looking at your own progress. And you do that by continuing to learn and to practice and to say, you know, I did pretty good here. Is there a new skill I can learn? Is there another class I can take? And that is what the really good feeling of fulfillment comes from. And if you've done that and you're like, I feel awesome about this, look how good my technique was, look at this cool thing I came out with, then the scary stuff just rolls off your back. People can say they don't like it and you're like, yeah, I don't care, I did a good job and I love it. Yeah. So
excellent. So we got one question from Michelle. What do you do when you get an art block? When you just feel stuck and you can't think of anything to be creative, or you can't come up with an idea, what do you do to get inspired or to get ideas?
If I have no new ideas of like new things I want to create, sometimes what I'll do is I'll go and recreate a drawing that I did years ago and just kind of see how it's changed and see what is the same about them, and kind of like take that information and reflect on it. So if you have art block and you have no new ideas, just kind of like redo something you've done in the past, see how it turns out.
Cool.
It's hard to force yourself to work if like that inspiration doesn't hit, but you have to look at it like a job. Yeah. Like it doesn't matter that you don't want to work, you have to work.
Yeah. And that's why it's good not to push things off to the last minute, so you have time for that. I'd say what I do is I go outside. I go and I look at nature. I love leaves. Leaves really inspire me in their shapes. The sun. I have jewelry, like my earrings now, I think came from an art block. And just, I don't know if you can see them, see the detail. So they're all hammered.
So like sunbursts.
Yeah, exactly. I call my bursts. And I use a hammer, and I love it. It's meditative, but it was playing around in my studio. So I'll play with my tools, play with what I've got, see what textures I can create. But a lot of times I come from an outdoor oriented family, and I find a lot of inspiration in the beauty that nature offers us, the artwork that is nature. So.
Well, and you guys probably had this experience if you studied art, if you studied fine art or anything. If you get into classes where you're doing either drawing or painting, they make you do a lot of like little sketches. They make you like go somewhere to a public place and do like 20 sketches and turn them in one day later, or do like 5 portraits of people, you know. So you have to do a lot, and it has to just be from the world around you. And that helps you see how much there is out there. So you might think there's nothing to draw, there's nothing cool around here. But when you have to sit at, like, I remember in college, I sat at the video rental store, like sketching people, you know, and like who thought there was cool stuff there. But the more I had to do it, the more you see. Or doing a still life, you know, whatever fruit is in your kitchen, set it up on the table and try to draw it. It helps you see like colors and shapes and people and situations that you wouldn't have noticed. So a lot of times you just got to make yourself just get out there and do a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually very similar to Kristen. I like to go on walks, especially for like sunset, and see the way that light is touching everything, because it's very interesting. It changes, everything around you changes. And then also, like her, I have tools within my reach at all times, so I can just play around with watercolors whenever I need to, just to get it out of my hands.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm waving them around.
So be playful, go out, do new things, redo old things, all those kind of things. I think this is probably going to be our last question. Maybe we'll see. What kind of opportunities are in the kind of creative industry for girls that like art but don't necessarily want to do freelancing or own their own business? What are some other jobs out there that you know of that they could do to be creative and do art without owning their own business or having to deal with customers?
Good luck. Those are the hard ones to find. There are jobs, you know, there are still some graphic design jobs that they call in-house, where you work for a company and you do their graphic design, and you don't get customers on your own. Those are fewer and fewer because there's so many more people doing freelance. But there's also jobs, you know, you could be involved in the art world through working at like museums and galleries, you know, see if you can just get a part-time job at a gallery and get your foot in the door that way. Some people who study art history go on to do like curation and work in that world. And actually all art historians I know are also artists, but that's not, you know, their day job. Their day job is selling and looking at other people's art and things like that, and then getting to do it on their own. So there's those kind of jobs. It is a lot harder. I think our economy right now is really on the freelancing side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard thing to do. But I think when you look into those kind of surrounding fields, like who runs the gallery, who puts up the shows, that's when you can find some things like that to do.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know or not, but for set design or like special effects makeup, for game design, are those industries using freelancers the most part, or do they necessarily have in-house? I don't know if this is something that you guys know.
There's a lot of companies that are contracted, so that you work for a little company, especially in Hollywood. If you're really interested in like 3D animation and stuff, like that's a big field. But a lot of times you work for a smaller company who contracts out to do a movie, you know,
to do the bigger ones.
My husband's cousin, he lives in New York City, and he does editing for TV shows. So for a while he did editing on the American Pickers show, and I believe, my understanding is he's self-employed and he contracts out to these different shows. And then once he's in between shows, he's got to figure out, when done with one show, got to figure out what show he's going to work on next, and, you know, put his work out there and hopefully get another show to work on.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know, but there are a lot of creative type jobs in the military. Like, there are a lot of creative jobs in the Army. People just don't know that. They think you have to be doing one very specific thing in the military. It's not true. There are so many options. And you can use your creativity in so many different ways. There are really a lot of options out there for you. I think gallery assistant was mentioned. I did that before. You could be like a teacher, like some of us are. You could teach high school or elementary school, or you could be a professor. Mm-hmm. Art therapy is one. My sister is an art therapist, and she works with little kids who are ill, and she thinks that's so rewarding. And so there's really so many options out there. It just takes a little bit of digging.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I don't want to speak for Sam, but I'm going to. As program coordinators, we're using art too. And Sam integrates art into the programs that she does and the programs that she creates. So there are ways that you can kind of integrate art into what you're doing. Did that sound okay, Sam, for me talking on your behalf?
Yes, I also have like another thing to add to it though.
Okay, go for it.
Immediately I thought of, I used to work in a machine shop, and there is sort of an artistic side to it if you were going to help with designing what they are producing. So the machine shop I worked at, they made the molds for ring pops. So you would need to be able to design like those shapes, and like again, it comes back to that it's not just drawing and painting. Those things are wonderful, they're beautiful, but there are other things you could be doing. There are so many options.
Or like, have you guys seen those ladies on Instagram who do nails, who are like nail techs? They do crazy stuff. They do tiny sculptures on your nails. You know, there's like cakes, you know, like people who do amazing cakes. So there's really cool artistic things in other industries. So, you know, wherever you end up, you can have a chance to use it, I think.
Excellent. Well, we are right at an hour. I want to give you guys an opportunity if there's some final thing you want to say to the girls. Now is your time. Anyone? If not, that's okay.
I would just reiterate to follow your passion and your gut instincts, and you know what you're gonna do for the rest of your life, which can change, and you really should go with the flow and the path that falls before you. But stay true to your interests and your passions. Don't be driven by what's going to make me the most money, because that doesn't bring you the most happiness. So that's probably about it.
Okay. All right. Well, I think it was a lovely panel. Thank you, ladies, for participating and letting us wrangle you into this. I learned something new. I'm sure the girls have. We will have this posted and sharing it with our girls. We are going to send out an email that will have your links so they can come and get a closer look at what you do and who you are. And I think we're good. Thank you, ladies.
Sounds good. Thank you.